Hey y'all, welcome to the channel. So today I want to show you some basic proportions for drawing a face. And this is something that you can take in any direction. You can turn it into something more realistic and lifelike, which is what I used to draw. Or you can take it into more of an imaginative, whimsical type style, which is what I like to do today myself. But I think art is beautiful. I used to teach elementary art, and therefore I got to get my hands into all kind of different media, and I still love it all today. So I like to play and I like to share everything that I create with you all, and I hope you enjoy it. So for a basic face in terms of the proportions, and full disclaimer, I normally don't do this before I draw faces nowadays, and I'll give you an example. I've got another video where I was focusing on how to draw a nose and mouth and how to shade and everything, and then I just went ahead and added just some real quick eyes, eyebrows, and I'll probably finish this out and share with you all when I'm done. But this does not actually fit the proportions, the generalized, I should say, proportions that I was taught in college. And so, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine because, as we know in real life, you know, we all have different features and the proportions are unique to each one of us. And that's really why I don't do this. But I think it's really helpful when you are starting out learning how to draw faces, just to know as a starting point, as guidelines. So the first thing is to make an upside down egg shape. And what I typically do, it depends. You have to think about your space first of all. Like here, I'm not very focused or worried about adding hair, because your hair is going to come up above this and a little bit below this line too. So you have to think about that. But you'll see when I'm done sketching out the proportions here, how it fits this paper. And so that's just something to be mindful of when you're starting out. But it's technically an upside down egg shape. So it's going to be wider at the top and smaller at the bottom. Okay, just some arches. And I typically sketch, if you're very, very new, literally just starting out drawing, I like to sketch with the side of my pencil versus the tip, like when you're writing, because it's more forgiving, you can erase it easier, and you can blend it, mainly because you can blend it. You can, if you're drawing with the tip of your pencil, it can actually press into your paper and make indentations that you can't get rid of when you try to use your eraser. The indentations will still be there. So that's the reason why you see artists use the side of their pencil. It's just softer. You have more control once you learn how to do it. But don't worry about being rough with your lines. This is something I don't worry about anyway. And as you're going around the sides, just very light pressure and wispy. Wispy and light has served me very well. You are welcome to rotate your book. This is actually a mixed media book. I've pressed some leaves in here with my daughter, and I've got this wax paper. So sorry for the rattling. But you can rotate it. But the danger of rotating it to finish your shape, it may feel more comfortable, but you're not checking as you're making or filling this part in. You're not able to really compare it to this side in the same way to make sure that it's very similar. So I don't typically rotate, even though some people do. But what you can do instead of just continuing on is you can just make little marks. You can kind of look and see, from here, just consider visually. And your eyes are surprisingly accurate, by the way. I think that it's helpful to have tools like a level when you're hanging a picture. But if you've ever hung a picture in your home, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. Your eyes can detect like a quarter or an eighth of an inch if it's off in terms of not being level. And so I utilize that. I utilize that natural ability to see things like that, and it makes my art just easier, and I'm able to let go and have more fun with it as opposed to trying to make it be perfect. But it's up to you, and I certainly do go back and I have to correct a lot of things. So please never see that as failure. I think no matter how long a person's been doing art, they're going to have some pieces that don't turn out exactly as they intended, but it still doesn't mean that they're not great and valuable. And a lot of times, whoever's looking at your art may not even know what you intended anyway. Somebody mentioned recently, I saw a video, they were talking about reference photos. And I wish I could remember who it was, but they said, if a person hasn't seen your reference photo, they're not going to know that your finished artwork isn't 100%, a match to your reference photo. Only you know that. So just remember that when you're starting out and cut yourself some slack. But you can just kind of look at these points, and just kind of make little marks and sort of like do that as you're sketching down to make sure that it's somewhat proportionate. Okay, and I'm already seeing how I could probably widen the chin, but again, all this stuff can be corrected later. So when you're starting out, I don't focus on getting every step perfect. I just do the proportions, I do some marks, and that's what we're going to talk about, and then later you can go back and add in your shading and your details, and it's just one step at a time. So as far as proportions, what I was taught, and it still serves me pretty well, is right in the middle, okay, like from here to here, meeting in the middle, is typically where your eyes are, okay. So if you want to draw a line, you can, and then of course, if you want to check the middle for your nose, you can even measure this. It depends on how precise you want to be. But I don't usually do that. So what I do is I can see, okay, my eyes are roughly going to go here. I do some very simple arches. And I'm sorry, I know my camera's a little shaky. I've got to get a better setup. I actually have a better setup in a different room. But there's better lighting in here, so I'll try to get a better setup in here. But just some very simple marks, really, just to show yourself, this is where the eyes are going to be. Now from there, you have like the bottom of your eyes and you have your chin. I like to put the nose right in the middle, and the way I start a nose is typically a circle. Okay, this is going to be the end of the nose, the tip of the nose. All right, from your nose to the chin, halfway is typically where your lips are going to be. And so you can do a little mark there. And this is just a very generic outline for your proportions. Now, hairline is really interesting. I used to teach elementary school art, and the kids would just put the hair, they would just go up here, and then there would be no hair from this line down. But the truth is, and think about where you want a part to be, if the hairstyle is going to have a part, man or a woman, doesn't matter, but just kind of draw in where you think the part might be. And then the hair is actually going to come down a little bit. It will vary depending on, the portrait you're making. But the hairline, the front part is going to come down a little bit. And then it's also going to go up above. So I like to go ahead and think about, what hairstyle, especially if this is something out of my imagination, which is 99% of what I do now. I used to draw from photographs, and I just kind of do a rough outline of whatever the hair is going to be. Ears are normally, the bottom of your ears are normally going to fall at the bottom of your nose. Okay, so you're going to look at this bottom of this circle, and you're going to come over here. That'll be the bottom of the ear. If you're going to have the ears show, a lot of times I have my hair come down, and it's going to cover the ears. You're not going to see the ears. Maybe you have one ear show. But the top, if you're going to show the ears in full, the top is going to be in alignment somewhere up here with the eye, okay? And your top part, just for a simple ear, is typically a little bit bigger then, you know, you're going to make a little curve, come down, and you're going to have the bottom part here. You can do an earring if you want, whatever, okay? So that's typically the ears, and we won't get too much into the shape and stuff right now. We'll do that later. But your neck is going to fall. Well, let me just say this. I was talking earlier about how your eyes can detect when things are off a little bit. They'll absolutely be able to detect this. So don't sweat it. If you put your neck in and it looks a little bit disproportionate, your eyes will tell you that. So that's why you just, you know, again, you draw lightly. You have your eraser handy, and I've got a couple of different types of erasers I want to share with you all. I may do a video about materials and explain and show the differences in those. But this is called a gum eraser, and it's great just for sketching. So, and I'm actually using a pencil, a graphite. This is the Faber-Castell 2B. HB is the lightest, and then you have 2B, and it gets darker from there. 4B, 6B, 8B is very dark. But when you're starting out your sketches, I would definitely use a lighter one, 2B or HB. But your neck is going to be, it's going to kind of look like it's connecting to the side of the chin, around the edge of the eye, where the eye might end, you know. And you're just going to kind of make a little arcing movement here, and you're going to bring it down. Same thing here. It's going to come in. That's why at first it may feel like this is way too wide for a neck, but it's going to arc in. So a very common mistake is to make a neck that's not wide enough, but this is just another arc. Okay. From here, start thinking about your shoulders. You know, where do you want your shoulders to fall? And another mistake is to make them too short, which, you know, if you're doing whimsical paintings, which I do a lot, and drawings, you may want them to be little. You know, I've seen a lot of really cute little fairy drawings that have just a really big head and a tiny body, you know. But for realism, you know, your shoulders, when you're drawing them, they're going to be wider than what you realize. And that's something that's really interesting, is we don't realize it, but we have these preconceived ideas as far as our body proportions, and then we realize the ones that are false when we actually start drawing. When we realize that our drawing fits what we've always believed, but it doesn't fit what we're looking at. It's not realistic. So, but that's the basic proportions and kind of placement of things. From here, your lips, I'll do a detailed video on the shape of the lips, but your midline here, and there's a specific shape to this line you can do too, and I'll do a video on that. But this midline, typically the bottom of the lips is a little bit bigger than the top. You know, the top part's usually a little smaller. So when you're making your marks for where the lips go, again, it's this middle line where the lips meet is not exactly in the middle. It'll be more like this. It's kind of 2/3 up. I almost forgot this part too. So when you're drawing the mouth line here, the middle line, what I was taught is that as far as the width of the mouth, if you've already got the eyes in place, and I know that these eyes are closed, but just imagine if the iris is here, the circle, right? The colored part of the eye. So if you can imagine where that is, and then the pupil, I was taught that the edge of the mouth should line up with either the outer part of the iris or the middle of the eye. So it should come all the way out here, right? Same thing over here. Should line up with the edge of the iris in this eye. So this is where, you know, when you're starting out, if you want to draw graphs or just even very light dots, you know, then you'll know before you go into a lot of effort to draw the you know, detail out the lips and everything. You'll know exactly where to place them. But again, you know, proportions, you know, they're kind of a generalized guideline and everybody's different, right? So, and so these are the eyes, and then of course the eyebrows are going to come a little bit past the eye. Like if the eye were to meet here and here, sometimes I'll do dots for the edge of the eyes, you know, when I detail them out later. Your eyebrow is going to be a little bit further in than your the edge of your eye. It's going to arch up a little bit, and I'll just tell you, as far as what I learned years ago about applying makeup, and again, it's personal preference, but the typical shape of like a fashion type eyebrow is that the arch kind of comes up like this, and then it comes down. But it's not a hard line, it's a soft curve, you know, so the shape is more kind of like this. So where you have the iris in here, and I typically don't ever show the full iris, I leave a little bit tucked under the top lid. Later I might adjust it and make it where her eyes are not quite as open, and I might make the lid come down a little bit. Same thing with this, you can adjust all this later. You might even cut off the bottom part of the iris, but the point here is wherever you place the outside part of the iris, which is the color part of your eye, you know, the pupil is the black part, and I always leave a little bit of white. But the outside of your iris is where the arch is. This is aligned right here, and that's where the highest point on your eyebrow is. I'm going to do more videos on shading and things like that, but I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that it helps you get started with portrait drawing. If you feel called to share your thoughts, I'd love to hear them in the comments. Thank you so much for coming and watching the video and listening. I hope that you benefited and enjoyed it. Thanks so much, and have a wonderful day.